Well, I'm joined today, not only in lockdown, but in this video, by Charlie, my son, whose introduction to theatre happened in 2002. And 2002 was a year of all sorts of different strange things happening. It started off, and I'm talking about school year, in the end of 2001, with Danny Sturrock saying to me, I'm going to write a play. And he wrote a play called Gagging for It. And he gave it to me. This was after the NSDF. He was inspired to do it. He gave it to me and said, would you read it? He knows I hate reading plays. But I agreed reluctantly to do that. And then one day it was sunny and I said to Rachel, I'll go out and sit in the garden and read it. And I loved it and really laughed. And he said, if you want, I'll put it on with the youth theatre kids. And I said, that's brilliant, but I'm doing an audition for something I'm going to do as well. And I can remember at the audition, which was for Secrets in Love, and I don't know whether you remember that at all, and you came along to that. Secrets in Love is the only production I've ever done which didn't actually happen. We never got it onto stage. But I can remember in the auditions thinking, gosh, everybody is loving Danny's play, and the little offerings I was giving were really poor by comparison. And so just a shout out to Danny, ex-student, who went on and won drama festivals with Gagging for It, and it was a fantastic play, and it was published by DVD8 and still is. And I know he's working on a new version now because he feels it's all out of date. So Secrets in Love, what do you remember?
How old was I?
Nothing, you were 10.
Was this the one about the
Yes.
Oh, okay. About like a man...
Child killer.
Yeah. And
yeah.
He had a hidden... He hadn't told his girlfriend.
That's right.
He had a murderous past.
He had his... It was a James Bulger type thing. And Charlie was the child who was killed in the back of a car, which was stolen by a teenager who drove off. And he ended up being killed because the kid didn't know what to do. Had a transfer of his identity, and we worked hard on it to try and make it happen, and we just couldn't make it work. So in the end, we actually gave up and didn't do it. But Danny's Gagging for It kept us going through youth theatre. And the whole group who had been involved in Secrets in Love decided we'd go to the NSDF. And here we are, all at the NSDF. And we can see there my little daughter Daisy and somewhere Charlie there as a 10-year-old looking suitably cheeky. And these people were there as well. Now, Ali, and I can't see Errol. Here he is, Errol. Martin must be somewhere. I can show you a picture of them close up. They had actually, they were a legacy of Race to Be Seen and Graham Salmon. And they'd produced a play called Goes Without Saying. And they managed to get into the NSDF as a performing group. So this thing of including people from the Cedar School to work and empowered them to the extent they'd set up their own group. They performed a play there. They won and did incredibly well at the festival, and it was a really, you remember it as being funny, I think.
Yeah, super funny and really exciting that we could go with a group that were performing at this prestigious festival that we were, very much just enjoying
we were
participating
and having workshops with quite leading acolyte type people. I can remember I met Willie Russell, who was there doing a workshop on Blood Brothers, and I think John Godber did a talk as well, and he told the great story about to a group of kids who were in his classroom, and apparently he said, "Fuck off, I'm writing bouncers." And I thought that was a really nice little story. So that's the Cedar School group producing the Goes Without Saying, and it really was quite an unusual, a unique thing for these two guys to get into a festival and do so well. But at the end of the festival, during the festival, what do you remember about being involved as a 10-year-old at the festival?
Well, you get the chance to write down every morning. You get the chance to write down what workshops you kind of go to and things like this. So we all split off into our different groups. I guess you probably stayed with me for quite a lot of it.
No.
So there was lots of like physical ones that really appealed to me. For example, I remember stage combat, and
I should say to anybody who doesn't know, Charlie is now a circus performer with the Barely Methodical Troupe, a very successful one.
Thank you. And yeah, so that was actually the first time I got to see breakdance as well, which was happened to be my way into a lot of my physical work now. So I remember a breakdance class that we had on some like stairs, just at the top of a balcony. We did, and then there was lots of show watching, which I loved, and there I got to see the drip by Lecoq.
Yes, yeah,
and that just blew my mind. From Dad does a lot of kind of wordy plays, and this was a play that I had seen that had no words in it. And I didn't know that was possible, to do a show talking with just your body. So that, I remember just talking so much to you about how much I love that, and that's what I want to do. And I'm going to go to the Jacques Lecoq School in France, and
yeah, I remember that.
I was sorted, so that was wonderful.
So what an inspiration the NSDF was. And I was teaching on it, so I was doing some human pyrotechnics, teaching about staging of car accidents, how to stage them.
Human pyrotechnics, good name. Yeah.
And then, at the end, we were all called to this kind of emergency meeting.
But we had meetings
every day.
Yeah, so after all the shows, there was like a discussion, they called it, where we would be in this beautiful theatre. Was it the Stephen Joseph Theatre?
No, it was at it was a place in Scarborough, I can't remember where.
And everyone talked about the shows, and that was really cool. There was that critical analysis, and anyone could say stuff about it.
And you did, didn't you? You publicly contributed.
Yeah, I really enjoyed. I made a point to write notes about each show I saw, and I was like, right, I'm going to say one thing about each show, and I liked a little challenge.
And the NSDF targets university students, so it wasn't really for school students, but if you were a school group who were interested and who had got in, particularly, you'd be able to go. And I can remember from when I first attended seeing this guy who was obviously something to do with the festival and his little daughter, and I thought, how nice. This is me now and my little son who will be coming to this every year. And it was just, I imagined it was going to be a really lovely thing to be involved in. But then there was this meeting. Do you remember the meeting, or do you remember being told about it?
I was even allowed to go to this
meeting. Right. There was a weird meeting that they suddenly had where the subject of this little boy who had attended some of the workshops was being brought up. And some of the people were not happy about this little boy who was doing stuff. And then people in the meeting really spoke up for this little boy and said he was the star of the workshop. And I remember one workshop you were asked to...
Oh my gosh. I don't really understand how it happened, but...
It was with John Wright from Trestle. I mean, a very, very well-reputed, a fantastic comic person, but brilliant.
Yeah, and that's as little boy. I was incredibly small as well as being young. So I looked younger than I was. And there was... I don't really understand what... My memory's not too good of it, but there was...
It was about tension.
Okay. And so we were creating tension between each other, and we all sat around in a circle, big circle of the room, and there was exercises where different people could go up and we would look at tension. And suddenly there was this kissing exercise.
Which you didn't know it was going to be a kissing exercise, I don't think. And you volunteered for it.
Okay, and he just continued
with
it.
Yeah.
Where you had to walk up to strangers and go kind of draw in as close as you can to a kiss, and then at the last second move away.
And it was one of the most poignant scenes of a mummy, and this was a university girl, being about to kiss her little boy goodbye, and they made it into an absolutely stunning scene. It got a round of applause and everything. And people remembered that little moment, and the girl was very happy, I think, with the scene, but someone obviously really wasn't. And I, as a parent, was delighted that Charlie had been given this fantastic opportunity. And working with the breakdance guy, you had a brilliant relationship with him. And I can remember you went off and did things with him solo. And he took you under his wing, and you learnt an enormous amount. And it inspired Charlie. But at the end of this meeting, there was a rule made that from then on, no one under 16 should attend. And as far as I'm aware, that rule has persisted. And it's such a shame. And from that point on, we never went back to the NSDF again. And I'm very, very sad that we were part of the demise of that flexibility that they had. But in Charlie and what he's gone on to achieve, they really have a legacy that they should be very, very proud of for creating, because it did, in my mind, all begin through the NSDF for you.
Absolutely, yeah, big time.
Okay. And that end with me having failed to do a production that year led to quite a determination that the one I'd do in the following year would need to be really quite special. And Charlie was involved in that too in a very small way, and it did end up being very special.